All right, ready, and we are live. Once it starts, it's got some weird screen. Hey! Hey, good morning, class. Thanks for getting out your entry task and starting your journal notes. Well, you can see the first task for today is to make sure that we are going to finish looking at disorders. And so over the last couple days in class, if you look up behind me, we have covered modules 65 up through 68, and now we need to make sure we finish the module 69, which is other disorders. So we have to make sure we can have a continuation of your notes to make sure you get these last things. We have some stuff to build upon. Here's why we're going to finish disorders, and we're not going to take a vocab quiz or a final formal assessment or even a summative assessment on this unit, because we are going to do these two units together. The goal is to make sure that what you know about disorders, okay, can be applied to how we would then go and treat those disorders, and that will be today's topic. So the first couple minutes are simply going to be us wrapping up, looking at all of the different types of disorders, and then we'll talk about and do some group work about how you would go about treating each of those disorders. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So a couple things that I should make sure you know is, first of all, I want to review real quick. Some of you are already kind of doing both. I'll kind of dance in front of you. Obviously, when we first started, okay, we talked about disorders, and we said, okay, disorders are basically anything where we see deviant or abnormal behavior. Are there any questions about this idea about the medical model, or questions about this idea of the biological, psychological, social, or the biopsychosocial approach? Any questions about any of these at all? Anything at all? Okay. So obviously, the big piece with all of these is understanding. Oh, I'm pivoted. All right. Understanding that there are many different categories, all right, of your disorders. Okay, and we said the other day, hey, make sure you understand that these are common. Okay, many times people think that, oh yeah, psycho disorders are not that common. I don't know anyone, but at some level, okay, you probably all know someone who is dealing with some disorder. Any questions about the 5 different types of anxiety disorders at all? Any at all? So probably the key, if you're obviously the AP exam a couple weeks, make sure you know that these 5 different types. So if you look at each of these and your brain says, okay, I know what a general anxiety disorder is, and I know why it's different than a phobia or why it's different than OCD. Okay, if you understand those 5 types, you should be just fine. Any question about mood disorders from Wednesday? Okay, so obviously look at the whole idea about bipolar disorder. Okay, make sure you understand this idea about the people who go through those major mood swings. Okay, people who deal with depression, then up at the top level of mania. Would you please do me a favor? All right, it's one of the most important things we talked about. Would you please find a partner, someone next to you, and simply explain to them how explanatory style can impact your mood? So think about it for a second, okay, and then you can find a partner, probably just your elbow buddy right there, and explain to them how explanatory style, okay, can affect your mood. Ready, set, go, and I'll ask for some examples in a minute. I have to walk backwards like this to make sure I don't. All right. Explanatory style. Yes. All right. Do I have a table, or even have this? Do I have an individual who would like to volunteer? Perhaps say an example of what explanatory style is, or maybe even somewhere or some situation where you have used explanatory style to probably your advantage. You want to have an example of that? Well, it could be both, right? And maybe it's just a hypothetical. We have an example. You got one? Go ahead, Kaylee.
So, if you're in a game or something like that, and you mess up once, you're like, wow, you're so bad, you're doing so bad, and you mess up more, and yeah, you just go downhill. Gotcha. So you're saying, how about in an athletic contest, right? How many of you raise your hand if you're an athlete? Okay, where you do something, maybe not school, you play some sort of sport, or how about this? Raise your hand if you've played a sport in your life. Okay, a lot of you. Okay, good. Just on the count of 3, everyone just yell out your sport. 1, 2, 3. Soccer. All right, good. Now, if you said a sport, my guess is that all of you probably have something in that sport which you know is a
high-risk kind of activity. You might say, what is that? It's the making the touchdown catch at the end of the game. It's making a free throw. Okay, if you're like me, my son plays baseball, and I know this, that I don't know if he feels it, but every single time he walks up and he pitches, all right, I begin to freak out. And I go, hey, Blake, I go, what were you thinking about when you were pitching? He goes, well, I was thinking about throwing strikes. And I was like, good. And I don't want him to ask me, hey, Dad, what were you thinking about? And I want to be like, well, I was thinking about that, here's all the things I don't want to tell him. Right? Things like, I was thinking about, what if that pitcher hits that ball back right at you, hits you in the face? Right? Or I was thinking, what if the next pitch you throw, they hit a home run, and they hit 5 home runs in a row? That would be bad, right? Because those are all the things that, how about this? Is that a negative explanatory style? Yeah. So when my son says stuff like, hey, what were you thinking about? I was thinking about throwing strikes and striking that guy out, okay? Then that's a pretty good explanatory style, okay? You can do that for sports. You can do that for the AP test. You can do that with relationships, right? How many of you feel like there's times and things in your life where perhaps you sabotage things because you use a negative explanatory style? Does that happen to a lot of you? Absolutely, right? Hey, I'm going to miss this free throw. Oh, I want to ask so-and-so to prom, but they're probably going to tell me no, right? So therefore, I'm not going to ask them. So it's those sorts of things. All right, so any questions on the mood disorders at all? All right, how about schizophrenia? You ready to talk about David Taggart at all? Who's David Taggart? The guy that what? His job was to secure newspapers. And who was following David Taggart as he was homeless? The FBI, right? They wanted to keep tabs on what kind of newspapers he was securing. Yeah, and they were stealing his books, right? Now, how about this? How many of you realize that sounds like a crazy story? Okay, and you realize right away David Taggart was not doing well. Okay? And the reason is because why? David Taggart is schizophrenic. So how about this? Is this split personality?
No.
No. Why not? There you go, right? Your brain is beginning to split. So here's the thing. David Taggart, just so we know, okay, he was a homeless guy who was securing newspapers in New York City. That's what we saw from the documentary, right? So what we also know is David, if you ask David Taggart, okay, he would say, okay, I am someone who secures newspapers. It's a big deal, and the FBI is after me. Okay, and that clearly shows this idea of a split mind, right? Not split personality, a split mind, which means his reality is he was a homeless schizophrenic in New York City who went around to secure newspapers out of trash bins. Okay? Is that what he thought he was doing? So is his reality completely split from what he thought was going on? He thought, man, I got this job and the FBI is following me. Okay, it's a split personality. All right, so let's move on. So here's the last 4. Some of these real quick, then we're going to move on and begin to kind of go through and do your group work. So here's the 4 you need to make sure you know. The first one is somatic symptom disorder. This is where it gets a little confusing. Okay, here's a couple things. This is essentially that sometimes we have a physical ailment even though there's no physical cause. Because what does that mean? It means how many of you have ever said to yourself, ooh, I should be nervous right now, and then you automatically get nervous, right? Which means can your brain go through and make you feel sick? Can your brain go through and essentially can your brain make you have an illness which doesn't really have any physical cause? Okay, how many of you, I'll give you the best example. How many of you have been around someone who's sick, who has the flu? Okay? And almost immediately, like within minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel kind of sick too, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody here had the 10-minute flu? Right? We have the 12-hour flu, the 24, right? That 24-hour flu. Who's had like the 12-minute flu? Where you're around a friend, like, oh yeah, how's it going? Oh yeah, I had the flu. I just got back to school today. I still don't feel very good. You're kind of like, oh boy, right? And you're like, wait a minute, does my stomach hurt? Right? And how about this? Maybe you're feeling a little gassy that day, right? But here's the thing. Maybe your stomach doesn't feel quite right, but what does your brain tell you? Oh my gosh, it's the flu, right? And then as a result, people go, wait, am I hot? Is this a fever? Okay, and that's an example of what we call the somatic symptom disorder. Sound good? The next one, all right, is a study about illness anxiety disorder. Okay, who knows what a hypochondriac is? Heard that before? So hypochondriac, let me just make sure you know. The actual official name, if we go back and look at the DSM-5, which someone stole from me, where did it go? All right, it was here somewhere. No, it'll turn up. Most people don't steal DSM-5s for very long. That's okay. So anyway, If we look at this one, the official name is now the illness anxiety disorder. This is hypochondriosis. All that really means is there are people who take minor or kind of normal body sensations and then automatically begin to think it is part of a larger condition, right? People go for a quick jog. Oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. People who have kind of normal things. Oh, look at my skin. And they go outside for the sun for the first time in April because it took that long for the sun to show up. And you get a little bit red in the afternoon. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've got these blemishes. Skin cancer, right? I mean, there's things like that where people sometimes are always thinking, and that's a real disorder people have, to say every single minor ailment is actually part of a larger condition. That's when we look at the illness anxiety disorder. Kind of a separate type are these dissociative disorders. We'll go through these two real quick, and we'll have a chance to go through these more later on as well because we'll talk about them when it comes to our social psychology and our treatment units. Dissociative, all right, simply a sudden memory loss. People say, wait, is that amnesia? No, a little bit different. Sometimes you ever heard stories in the news about someone all of a sudden just leaves, okay, and goes somewhere, and they're missing. And they wind up somewhere else, like across the country, states away. Like, what happened to you? Like, what do you mean what happened to me? This is me. I now live in, no, wait, your family is here in Washington, and you're now in Vermont. And sometimes we call it a fugue state, F-U-G-U-E, where all of a sudden people say we have a loss of identity. So let me ask you this. People say, wait, how do I memorize this, Millbrook? Everyone say the word dissociative. Say it again, dissociative. Right? But now, here's the deal. Who's ever tried to dissociate themselves from someone? Anyone? We see it all the time in junior high. Here's how you dissociate in junior high. Remember that time when your parents are going picking you up from school? And you're with all your friends hanging out, and all of a sudden your dad walks up and starts going, hey! Right? Hey, Carlos! You're going, oh, right? And you're like, Mom, how many of you have ever had your parents pick you up like down the street? Yep. Ever happened to you? Yep. You have? Awesome, right? Because sometimes you're like, oh, my parents, they're so uncool. And you want to dissociate yourselves from them. Now, here's the question. If there's a reason for you to dissociate yourself from someone, the dissociative identity disorder or any of those dissociative disorders is when you try and dissociate yourself from yourself. All right? Sometimes on purpose. Okay? Sometimes it just happens. So the question is can I separate myself from myself and not really even remember who I was? Okay? It's a real thing. The last one I have is this idea about dissociative identity disorder. This is what we actually call that split personality disorder, where someone says, hey, hey, how's it going? My name is Marley. I'm a junior at Emerald Ridge High School, and I'm also Ken, a 52-year-old truck driver, right? And so if you believe, and here's the thing, Marley, and if you ever see videos of this sort of stuff, it's pretty crazy. Marley, at times, she'd be Marley. And then sometimes she'd also just kind of go and she would be Ken, right? And the problem is, when she was Ken, she could talk about Marley, right? And then Marley could go and talk about Ken, to the point where sometimes even their personalities hate each other, right? And so it's this real kind of crazy, bizarre thing that we'll talk about later on when we do more review later. So, question, Brandon, go ahead.
There's an episode of Psych.
Oh, boy.
Where he pretends to be insane to get into a mental hospital to
okay.
arrest the criminal.
Okay.
There's a bunch of examples of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
One chick who, who's like...
One young lady.
She's completely normal.
Okay.
And then at one point they try to talk to her again. But then she says her name's like Dr. Rex or something.
Yep. All right, everybody. Hey, would you do me a favor? Would you send, or some of you have books, would you make sure that you have enough books for every... Actually, leave them for now. We'll get them later. I promise. Yes? It's the same thing. All right? We used to call it split personality, and then someone said, wait, that's not official. Oh, sorry. That's not official enough sounding, so they went through and changed the names so that actually made sense. I know, sorry. The question I asked last time was if I kept spinning around long enough, would it just eventually unscrew and fall off? And the answer is no, I heard so. All right, everyone has one of these, right? You got one? Okay. Now, at your table, you each are going to get one of these little fun little baggies. Here we go. A bag for you, right? They kind of flow. And a bag for you. Look at that. This is kind of fun. And a bag for you, all right? Oh, my God. Sorry. Come back. Don't do this. Sorry. Hey, I can't have fun? All right, here we go. Here, I'm moving too fast. There, take those. All right, everyone grab you should have a baggie. Everyone should have it on top of it. Just grab a strip and pass them around. So everyone's got a baggie, all right? And grab your strip. And once you've got your strip, you need to take your handout, write down your name, then also write down the topic and the page numbers which are on your strip. Are you ready? Everyone got that going? Now, what's going to happen, once you have, I'll give you a second. I'm rushing. Okay, now don't open a book yet because you're all going to be moving here shortly. All right? Because what you're going to be doing is you are all going to become experts in your topic. So you should have, and then once you have your strip of paper and you've written down what your topic is and the page numbers on your sheet of paper, would you please take all those strips and put them back into the baggie so I can use them for the other periods? Thank you. And hopefully you wrote down the page numbers as well. Did you do that as well? Good. All right, now, here's where we're going to go, and we're going to move. All right, so here's a couple things. So you know, I'm going to go through the list. If you have the topic of psychoanalysis, would you please raise your hand? Where are you at? Psychoanalysis. Psychoanalytic, sorry. Psychoanalytic. Same thing, right? So psychoanalytic, so you are going to be at this table right here, right? The other people, the next group is the humanistic. Raise your hand if you're the humanistic group. Raise them up. Okay? You're going to be in the back over there, right? Yes, all right? Where's the behaviorists or the behavioral group? Okay? You're going to be in the middle table right back over there, right? Where are the cognitive groups? Where's the cognitive group? The cognitive are going to be kind of in the front half of the table right here, all right? Who is in the drug therapy group? Drug therapy group will stay right here, all right? And then the brain stimulation group will be right here, all right? Don't move yet. Hold on. Now freeze. Here's what's going to happen, okay? You're going to move. Your goal is you're going to get to be an expert at your topic, okay? And you are going to be responsible for becoming such an expert, okay, when you go with everyone else in your other topic groups, they're going to be able to come back and teach your original group all the stuff that they need to know, okay, about the topic. Now, here's the deal. The key is this. The key is I need you to do a great job of learning the material, okay, when you are in your topic group. So when you move in a minute, here's what I want you to do. I want you to understand this. There's a couple of rules, all right? And I'll write these rules on the board in a minute so you can see. But here's the first one. The first one is you have this, all right? There is some important terminology that's going to go in this box, okay? People say, wait, is it just about the terms? Yeah, unfortunately, you have an AP exam in 17 days, and these terms are going to matter, right? So don't ignore the terms. Okay, the second part says you're going to talk about who created it, which means someone created this therapy. You might not have specific names, but who are the group of people who said this is how you would treat this disorder? So make sure you understand that all of these disorders, and you might want to reference these 5 pieces of paper on the front here, to realize and keep in mind, okay, would each of my therapies, so would cognitive therapy work for schizophrenia, for example? You might be in the behavioral group. With behavioral therapy, as you read this stuff, would it work for a mood disorder? So you're going to be trying to go through and connect these 2 units between therapy and also those disorders. Now, once you get to the group, at your group table, I'm going to have a packet of information for you. Okay, there's enough copies for everyone. Okay, it's going to be your job, and your high school students do this. When you get there, you're going to begin to go and look through this information first, right? Okay, you're going to read it together, out loud. Okay, as you read it, your job is you're going to talk about it. Okay, you're also allowed to underline, to highlight, and you all should be going through together and trying to pull things out of these handouts which are important for your topic. Does that make sense? Once you've done that and you've read together, then you're also going to use the textbook. And the textbook is where you're going to get the actual definitions, okay, and the wording, which are going to be the most similar to what you're going to see on the AP exam. So you're going to start working together. Okay, so I'll come around and pass around each of the materials. Remember, underline, highlight, all that stuff. So you have some time to work together. You'll become an expert in your topic, and eventually you're going to come back and you're going to have a chance to communicate how well you have learned that material by teaching the rest of your group. Know what you're doing? All right, how about this? Can we move by like 90 seconds? Can we get that done? Ever know where you're going? Ready, set, go. And then when one person from your group, please come up and grab your topic here. So we make that a little faster. So come up and grab your different papers. Sorry. You'll be fine. There's a good chance that we won't finish all of it until Monday when we actually teach. Cheers. Where's the humanistic group? That's yours? Oh. Okay. Oh, you're the brain stimulation? Sorry. Humanistic. All right, here we go. All right, so once you get there, let's go and get started. So you should all have some handouts. Make sure everyone has the same handout. And you want to begin to read these together, right? You're going to read them. You're going to highlight them together. Okay? But the key is do the handouts first. It's much more broad information. Then you're going to begin to go through and get more detailed with the information about the terms in the textbook. Sound good? All right, now, before we get started, make sure you turn around, everyone in your group, and say hi, and you just introduce yourself. Say, hey, what's your name? All right? So we know that if you have someone in your group, you should know everyone's name, but it's just easier to kind of get the conversation started. Are you ready? All right, on your marks, get set, go. Say your names, and then you begin to read together. All right? Okay, excellent. So Riley, since you're just here, which group were you in? You were sitting here, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we put you...
We already gave all the papers and stuff.
Well, I know, but there's 5 of you, and there's only should be 4. So I think I'm going to have you join this group over here. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, just check.
Yeah, so just yeah, all you'll need is this. You'll need that, and this will be later, so I'll just keep these. And they'll have these other forms for you there. Sound good?
Walk over here.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
To videotape them? All right, you ready?
Uh-oh. Who's watching us now?
Are you guys nervous about being in front of everyone? Would you rather be at the end? Okay, as you can see on your face. All right, we're going to...
The use of psychotropic drugs to treat mental disorders. No. Electroconvulsive therapy and psychosurgery. Medical doctors, psychiatric nurse practitioners, and a limited number of clinical psychologists can prescribe psychoactive drugs. 4 major classifications of psychotropic drugs are anxiolytics, anxiety medications, antidepressants, stimulants, and neuroleptics. Tranquilizers. Anyone else want to read?
Isn't that the thing they like shoot elephants with to make them go to sleep or something? Like
Could be considered that. I mean,
they call them a tranquilizer dart. It's normally just a cocktail to calm you down.
yeah.
No?
Why don't we just do clockwise?
Christian, all you.
You read better than I do. Okay. See, I can't even pronounce the words for
Anxiolytics, also called tranquilizers, and anti-anxiety drugs include quick-acting benzodiazepines, such as the widely prescribed drugs Valium, Librium, and Xanax, and slow-acting Burspar. Benzodiazepines increase availability of the inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA to the limbic system and reticular activating system, where arousal is too high, reducing the anxiety felt by the patient. Other therapies, such as visualization, relaxation, and time management, can be used in conjunction with drugs so that the drugs may be tapered off over time, because patients can also develop unpleasant side effects and build up a tolerance to these compounds. Anxiolytics are helpful in the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, and generalized anxiety disorder.
Antidepressants. Antidepressant medications elevate mood by making monoamine neurotransmitters, including serotonin, norepinephrine, and or dopamine, more available at the synapse to stimulate postsynaptic neurons. Types of antidepressants include
monoamine oxidase inhibitors, which inhibit the effects of chemicals that break down that word, and serotonin. Tricyclics, which inhibit reuptake of serotonin. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which inhibit reuptake only of serotonin, and atypical antidepressants, some of which may inhibit reuptake of serotonin. That word again, and dopamine, or a combination of two of them. Commonly advertised SSRIs include paroxetine, fluoxetine, citalopram,
So happy I took that last one.
fluvoxamine. Non-SRRIs include bupropion, and venlafaxine, HCl. They have all been found effective for treating depression, and some have also been found effective for treating anxiety disorders, such as obsessive-compulsive disorder, panic disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. For treatment of bipolar disorder, lithium has been widely used to stabilize mood, alone or with antidepressants. Anti-seizure medicines used to treat epilepsy, such as valproic acid, divalproex, and topiramate, have also been used.
Yeah, I'll read
I like all the hard words.
I'll read,
They were all
guys.
names of drugs.
I'll read.
You had fun with that?
I was supposed
did have
to
fun.
read that one.
So drugs pretty much cure everything?
I mean, if you take the right ones, maybe.
Then you get, yeah, if you've got the right ones. Well, now you get this nice little easy paragraph.
I'll read two and maybe. Stimulants are psychoactive drugs such as
Ritalin.
I don't know, and dextrine that activate motivational centers and reduce activity in inhibitory centers of the central nervous system by increasing activity of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine.
Same word.
Neurotransmitter systems. They are used to treat people with narcolepsy and people with ADHD.
Is narcolepsy like the sleep one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, was that the states of consciousness?
Yes.
Okay.
We learn things.
Yeah. Because I read some antipsychotics, the last class of drugs. Neuroleptics are powerful medicines that lessen agitated behavior, reduce tension, decrease hallucinations and delusions, improve social behavior, and produce better sleep behavior, especially in, I don't know how I pronounce it.
Schizophrenic?
Yep. Schizophrenic patients. An excess of dopamine is thought to be the cause of schizophrenic symptoms. Neuroleptics block dopamine receptors. Neuroleptics include and Clozaril. Unfortunately, these drugs can have serious side effects, including tardive dyskinesia, or problems with walking, drooling, and involuntary muscle spasms, which result from the blocking of dopamine at other sites. These problems cause some patients to abandon the medication after hospitalization, which results in a return of psychotic symptoms.
Other biological treatments.
Sorry to interrupt, but don't forget, you all, it's okay to write on these, highlight them, okay? Underline stuff, okay? And that's part of that building information in your brain. Is okay, oh yeah, when it comes across that term of the test, okay, that's what psychology tells us. So sometimes you might see that term and go, oh my gosh, I don't know what that means. But wait, I highlighted that term in pink when I read about this 3 weeks ago in class. And that might be enough to give you a clue to make some neural connections so that you can actually recall this for the test. So, you're going to, the next group's going to add to them. So yeah, you're just going to highlight it, but then the next group will use the same ones and they'll highlight and add to them as well. So, all right, you're doing great. Keep going. How are we doing?
I'm good.
Good. Where are we at?
Right
The last part.
Oh, okay.
Why here?
Excellent.
Is that?
Oh, yeah. You got the drug therapy. All right. So it's going to be difficult for you to figure out this part about who created it, because that's going to be more or less a medical doctor type thing. Makes sense? Like, that means usually it's going to be medical doctors and, drug companies. That's who makes those things. But research. Yeah, just like a bunch of researchers, okay, who are out saying, how do we fix this stuff, and that sort of thing. So.
There's a lot of hard words.
Yeah, and we're going to see, just going to pass out some terms that you want to make sure you kind of attach to.
Can I have those now?
Yeah.
Some patients do not respond well to antidepressant drugs or psychotherapy. Electroconvulsive shock treatment is used as a last resort to treat several severely depressed patients. ECT is administered humanly with the patient under anesthetic and given a muscle relaxants to prevent injury from convulsions. Then the patient receives a momentary electric shock. Typically, the procedure is repeated about 6 times over 2 weeks. Just how the procedure works is still unknown, but many depressed, suicidal patients are restored to healthy functioning. The patient usually experiences some, often temporary, memory loss immediately following the procedure, but no apparent brain damage. A promising new painless treatment for severe depression is repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, in which repeated pulses surge through a magnetic coil positioned above the right
so at this point in time, I know some of you are probably getting to the point where you're trying to finish up the worksheets. Now, I want you to try and transition. So, hey, we're not quite done with this one. That's okay. Okay, we want to try to transition now into the textbook. So remember, the page numbers that you wrote down at the top of your page is now going to be corresponding with the red textbook, which a lot of you have on the table in front of you, which is this one right here. All right, so what you want to also see is I just went around with a graphic organizer handout. So what you will see is underneath your topic. So if you look at yours and you see that you've got the behavioral one, I didn't get the screw one? Yeah, I'll get it in a second. So what you'll see is if you look at this, all right, what you will do is you will look, and you'll see this is a graphic organizer. So each of you have a column. So if you were the psychoanalysis group, then this first column right here are all the terms which you want to make sure that you now know and can communicate and teach to the rest of your group. So you want to become an expert, okay, the next 12 or 15 minutes on these kind of 5 terms. And each column corresponds with each topic. Okay, so that's what you want to focus on now, and I would focus on those using the textbook. So if you need to send someone up to grab the textbooks, you can do that, and we'll kind of transition into the textbook. Please, obviously, don't underline or highlight or write in the textbooks. Fair enough? All right. So grab the books. Now you can
Is there just one?
keep on going. Great job.
Oh, never mind.
We all have one.
And then, same thing, all right? I know you're all waiting your textbooks ready to go.
Oh, I see.
The key is this, is that eventually when you go back to your groups, then you will be teaching your topic as the expert, and they will be taking notes, all right, on their graphic organizer about your topic. You do not need to fill out your own topic on your graphic organizer. You will just want to go and use the sheet which you are taking notes on currently. Yes, that's for when we meet as a group. I just want to give you that so you have the term.
Do you guys want me to finish reading? Do you need to get the
I want
last
you to read
paragraph?
because
So when we go back to our old groups, if our group didn't have enough people, didn't have 6 people, not.
Yeah, I will fill in that for you. Yeah, I will pop in and fill in the one you missed. So.
Do we read this as a group?
Push the button again. Question?
Do we read this out loud as a group too, or do
Yeah. So let me see. Here's another one. Yes. So the question is, should we read this out loud as well? And the answer is yes. Please do. All right. Please go through, and you don't need to read word for word every page. You might run out of time, but it would be good for you to kind of go through and find some paragraphs and things that you want to go through and sort out from the textbook so you have that stuff. Sound good? So the key is this. The power of doing this as a group project is the conversation. It's the communicating with each other. So make sure that you are still having the conversation about the different terms and content of your material.
Those are like the ones that we are definitely responsible for,
Yep.
but then there's other ones. Wait, should we write all the folded ones?
You want to make sure that you've got the terms. So which group are you guys? You're the drug? Yeah. So you want to worry about those terms there. If you've got those ones, you can teach those ones. Those are your main focus now. Which one are you guys again? Oh, behaviorism. All right. So you have this complicated one because there's what they've begun to realize in the last probably 30 years or more is that behaviorism is really can't be separated from your thoughts. Does that make sense? So behaviorism in the classical conditioning form, like that's one thing where, hey, you give the dog meat, it's going to salivate. That's classical conditioning, right? Stimulus response. What they found out was with therapy, a lot of times they'll use like behavioral cognitive or cognitive behavioral therapy. So almost always when you see behavioralism, it's really connected with the therapy to the cognitive part of it. Does that make sense? So don't think about you can always just classically condition someone to do something. Now there's some of you are going to come across like aversion therapy, right? So aversion therapy is an example of if someone can train someone not to like something. So example would be like, what about some of these drug addiction places or like alcohol addiction? And what they do is they would simply go and they would taint each drink that someone might have, whether it's going to be beer or alcohol, they would taint it with a medication which would make them feel nauseous and want to puke. Right? So that would be an aversion therapy. Make sense? So that's kind of straight classical conditioning. But for the most part, most of the stuff you're going to come across is going to be more about adding in the cognitive thought process of it. Fair enough? Okay. All right, how we doing?
Good.
Do you understand where you're at with all the terms and stuff? Which ones you need?
I have a lot.
Which one do you have again?
Humanistic.
Oh, yeah. You'll be okay. So the ones you worry about, not all of them there. It's just these ones here, right? So those are the 5.
Those 5 that we write.
Yeah. So I think these are probably the terms that you want to make sure that people know what each of these things is. So that's kind of the main topics. Make sense?
Yeah.
So in your section, you have a lot more. You don't need all those. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Anytime I can give you less work, you're like, thank you. Yeah.
Can you explain like transference or like transferring more to me? Because like I get it, but I'm not like clicking exactly like what it is. If that makes any sense.
Gotcha. So transference is, I think an example I gave you before was you come home from school, you're having a great day, like, hi mom, how's it going? Do you mind if, and then mom, just, you know what, just go to your room.
Oh, because she had,
right?
like, if she's had a bad day or something.
Yeah, and so, so there's some things which it's not okay if we're angry. This is a Freud theory. So Freud believed that there are these defense mechanisms. And so Freud said there's certain ways that we deal with anxiety when we can't handle what's going on in our lives. So transference would say that if your mom, let's say your mom had a tough day at work and her employees weren't listening, or she had an issue with her boss, whatever it's going to be, and she can't necessarily take it out on her employees because maybe that's not necessarily her role, but she might come out and as mom, she might transfer those feelings onto you. So that's kind of transference. That's a great question, though. Especially how you asked it. I understand it, but it's not clicking.
Yeah.
That's why you say, I need an example. How are we doing?
Pretty good.
Humanistic. Yes, question?
This one.
Yeah, so for the big one for brain stimulation is, for the most part, you're just going to be looking at just medical doctors. And so a lot of times where we see most of that deep brain stimulation and even the biomedical therapies, if you go way back, it first started with people saying, okay, if someone is mentally insane, you know, and this is hundreds of years ago, then let's just go and cut out part of their brain, called lobotomy. If we just cut the right part out, then they'll be good, right? So that's where it started, and eventually moved into shocking people's brains, trying to go out and cut out. Even as late as the 50s, they actually would go and cut out parts of their brains. So, all right, everybody, enjoy your lunch. We'll come back. We'll have just a few minutes to finish up this part, and then we will move on, and you have a chance to be the experts for the rest of your group. Let me push the